Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're getting right into our fourth segment of the night, talking about Conor McDavid breaking a Wayne Gretzky record. I do have to add the A in there because he has so many. And to understand how crazy it is to beat a Wayne Gretzky's record, we're going to first talk about the legacy of Wayne Gretzky and how many records he really does have. He has 40 regular season record. Most goals in a career, most goals including playoffs, most goals in one season, most goals in one season including playoffs, most goals in 50 games from start of the season, most goals in one period, most assists including playoffs, most assists in one season, most assists in one season including playoffs, most assists in one game, most assists in one road game, most points including playoffs, most points in one season including playoffs, most overtime assists, most goals by a center in one season, most goals by a center in a career, most assists by a center in one season, most points by a center in a career, most points by a career one season, most assists in one game by a player in his first season. What kind of stat is that? Most assists in one game by a player in his first season. You guys get the point. He has every single record known to the hockey world, including a bunch of playoff records, most playoff goals in a career, most playoff assists in a career, most playoff points in a career, most assists one playoff year, most assists in one season or in one series. Actually, he doesn't have that one anymore. Leon Draisaitl has that one now. Most assists in final series at 10. This is one that I want to talk about a little bit more. 10 assists in one Stanley Cup final series. He did that in 1988. He did that in 4 games against the Boston Bruins, however. So a little bit different than what Conor McDavid might do. He might have to do that in 7 games if the Edmonton Oilers want to win this Stanley Cup. Of course, they have to take this to 7. But right now, Conor McDavid has 6 assists in one series, or in the final series. So he could definitely give Wayne Gretzky a run for his money in that statistic. But really, for Conor McDavid, he needs to. Well, let's look at what he needs to do. Really, I think that he needs to break the most points in one playoff year at 47 that Wayne Gretzky has in 1985. Of course, they won the Stanley Cup Finals in that season. Wayne Gretzky did it in 18 games. Conor McDavid has currently played 22 games, so a little bit different. Once again, you're gonna need to take. It's a Wayne Gretzky stat, so you're going to need to take it into context. Wayne Gretzky was the greatest hockey player to ever live for a reason. 47 points in 18 games in the playoffs is absolutely ridiculous. But hey, that's Wayne Gretzky for you. But as terms of the record that Conor McDavid just broke, he just broke the most assists in a playoff run record. It was 32. And very, very impressive that Conor McDavid's able to break a record like that from Wayne Gretzky, of course, an idol of Conor McDavid. It's a shocking one that he is able to do that, and it seems like we keep on calling his number to kind of perform here in these playoffs time in and time out because I guess the rest of the team is just underperforming what he needs them to do. For the Edmonton Oilers, Wayne Gretzky is just Conor McDavid is just a step above any other team or any other player in the NHL right now. And for Wayne Gretzky, he was an absolute step above. And Wayne Gretzky helping his team lift 4 Stanley Cups. Conor McDavid is not Wayne Gretzky, and nobody can be, but what we can do is look at Conor McDavid having this kind of playoff run in a 2024 setting where the goaltenders know how to drop down into a butterfly now compared to back in 1980s. I'm not comparing eras here because that gets a little bit dirty. However, I will say that the goaltending this year, if you put Sergei Bobrovsky in a net in 1980, I think he is looked at as the greatest goaltender of all time. That's just my opinion, though. But really, it is just impressive. It is really impressive what Conor McDavid has been able to do throughout this postseason. You really gotta look at his run in this postseason and 33 assists now. 30 is he at 30? What is he at? I think he's at 33 assists, 6 goals for 39 points in 22 games. Very, very impressive. Just so crazy the stats that he's putting up. 4 points in a elimination Stanley Cup Finals elimination game. Backs against the wall, and he produces. He's gonna need to break this 47 points record though. He is 8 away, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. No, sorry. He is 9 away. He has 38 points. He has 32 assists. 31 was Wayne Gretzky's record. So he has 32 assists right now. He is 9 points away from breaking the all-time points in a single playoff run record, which, I mean, that's as impressive as it gets, man. It's a Wayne Gretzky stat that's lasted for almost 40 years now. It's crazy that it's been 40 years since Wayne Gretzky has played hockey. But truly, there's some things that Wayne Gretzky did that nobody thought would be broken. Of course, 92 goals in a season. That's 92 goals in a season will never be broken. 215 points in a season. Almost 2,000 point or assists in a career. These things will never be broken. But for Conor McDavid to slowly erase Wayne Gretzky's name in record books and slowly put his name back, it really goes to show you how fantastic of a hockey player Conor McDavid is. And a little bit bigger conversation, Conor McDavid could end his career as the greatest Oiler of all time, because he's only 200 goals away from Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's goal tally at 583. He's at 335 right now. He is only 400 assists away from Wayne Gretzky's assist record. If he continues at his pace that he's at, he could do that in 5 years. Break the assist record and break the goals record in the 200 gap. He scores 35 goals a year. He could do that in 6 years. He could take over goals in 6 years. He could take over assists in 5 years. Conor McDavid can legitimately do that stuff. This is, of course, the Edmonton Oilers records. This isn't overall career. And Wayne Gretzky only played how many years? 9 years with the Edmonton Oilers, I believe. 9 or 10 years with the Oilers. So a little bit different. Once again, Conor McDavid is already at that mark now with the Edmonton Oilers, but if he is able to, take over goals and take over assists and take over points in a career with the Edmonton Oilers, that would be very impressive. Of course, you think of Wayne Gretzky, you think of Edmonton. Not really. You don't really think of his time with the LA Kings. You don't really think of his time with the Rangers or the Blues. You think of his time with the Edmonton Oilers. So what Conor McDavid is doing, like I said, is absolutely. It's just something special, and every time he laces up the skates, every time he steps on the ice, he's doing something different that is just we haven't seen before in my lifetime, and most people haven't seen since they watched maybe Mario Lemieux and Wayne Gretzky in the 1980s and 1990s, 1980s and 1990s. So cherish what Conor McDavid is doing, because truly it is remarkable. The most assists in a playoff run is a very hard thing to do. He's averaging over an assist per game. That in a playoff where everybody's upping the intensity, all the goaltenders are playing at a next level, and they're going through runs of games where they're not producing. They had 1 goal through 2 games in this Stanley Cup Finals series, and they're still finding ways to put points, and they have the top 3 point getters in these playoffs. The Edmonton Oilers do. It goes for their playoff run. They're definitely able to make a run at the Stanley Cup. I can't wait to see what they do in this Game 5, if they're able to continue this. But now Conor McDavid 9 points away from the all-time postseason record for most points. I don't think he's going to get to goals, which is at most goals in a playoff run is, I actually don't know that. I think it's around the 20s. So Conor McDavid will definitely not be getting to that mark. But very impressive what he has been able to do in this postseason. I just want to put into perspective really what he has done in this postseason to get the Edmonton Oilers and how, one-off this run is. I mean, we don't see this ever in Stanley Cup finals or Stanley Cup playoffs history. So it's just a special thing to look at, and you really notice that you are in a historical moment here in the sport. So that'll wrap it up for our fourth segment of the night. When I come back, we will be previewing Game 5 of the Stanley Cup final.